Hello! In this video, I'm going to show you the report of the pathways audit we have run for one of our customers. Please note that the data has been anonymized for the purpose of this video. Our customer aimed at cleaning up their pathways pool. They wanted to make sure that pathways they offer are relevant to the skills they endorse, up to date, varied in formats, and engaged by their learners. The aim of the analysis was to identify pathways that need to be removed, updated, or reviewed. To achieve that, Filtered has analyzed the following metrics. Relevance to the skills framework. We have designed the skills framework for the customer using our AI model. Last update date, the amount of content within each pathway, active collaborators, last 6 months of engagement, formats of content within pathways, and their inclusion in development plans. The tagged output is the data visualization that allows us to identify pathways that are healthy and those that need attention. Let's have a look at that. Here is where we can find all of the metrics I have just mentioned. First of all, we can see when the pathway was lastly updated, the amount of assets it has inside, if it has a variety of formats, if it has active collaborators, if it's relevant to any of the skills from the skills framework, if it's a part of the plan, and if it is, what plan it belongs to, and the engagement data for the last 6 months. Based on that, we have scored each of the pathways with a health score. The lower the score, the healthier the pathway is. If we use the filtered in this column, we can easily find those least healthy pathways that we should potentially look into as a priority. We will see that those pathways are usually out of date, of low or very high amount of assets, and no collaborators and no skills covered. So if we look at the last updated dates, we will see that I can easily see all of the pathways that haven't been updated for the last 3 years, and they require an urgent attention, or potentially can be removed from the platform. We can then identify how many assets there are in each of the pathways, and for example, those with 0 can be easily removed from the instance. We will be able to see the variety of formats in a separate tab. I will show you that in a second. And I can easily look at the engagement data simply by clicking on the plus button. And that will show me how many times a pathway has been completed, followed, unfollowed, or viewed within the last 6 months. This data is extremely useful when we want to compare it with the health score of the pathway. For example, the health score for this pathway is 4, but it's actually been viewed 50 times within the last 6 months. So it's good to look into this pathway in details just to make sure that what we are offering is exactly relevant to our end users. In the skills summary page, we are able to see how many pathways are relevant to skills that matters to us. We are also able to identify the pathways gaps. For example, AI integration has 22 pathways. That means that there are 22 pathways that are relevant to AI integration skill. On the other hand, we will see that AI ethics and responsibility is covered only by one pathway. Potentially, this skill matters to us a lot. Just one pathway is not enough. And that's a good indication for us that more pathways on that topic should be created. We can have a closer look at that at the relevance to skill tab to see which pathways have been identified as relevant to a specific skill. We can simply find our skill, let's say analytical problem solving. 0 means that this given pathway is not relevant to the skill at all. But if we filter out those zeros and then sort this out from the highest to the lowest, we will be able to see all of the pathways that have been identified as relevant. So in this case, strategic business intelligence consisting of 4 assets is identified as 50% relevant to analytical problem solving. Moving on, we can quickly look at the collaborators. We can easily see who has been collaborating on our pathways, and if we would like them to review their pathways, we can easily ask them to do that. So we can, for example, ask Robert to review his 215 pathways and potentially identify which ones are the most burning ones. To do that, we will look for Robert on our collaborators pathway list. Robert is here. False means that he hasn't been or he isn't collaborating on a pathway, but if I choose to see only the true statements, all of those 200 pathways are here for me, like so. And if we also want to see when the pathway was lastly updated and ask Robert to review all of those that are a little bit older, we can easily do that as well. Here we go. We've got a quick summary of when our pathways have been lastly updated and how many pathways there are within those buckets. So, for example, most urgent attention should be put towards those 189 pathways. We are also able to see how many assets we've got with specific amount of assets within them. For example, there are 74 pathways with 0 assets. Good candidate for a removal. We also have analyzed how the pathways overlap one with each other, because potentially there will be pathways that have exactly the same content inside, and there is no point in having both of them because that just creates chaos on the platform and it's difficult to identify which pathway should I follow. So in this case, we will see that business modeling pathway and Salesforce effectiveness, they both have 26 assets each, and they are all the same. That means that they overlap in 100%, and we should potentially consider removing one of them. Lastly, we've got the pathways format split. So that's the formatting variety that I was mentioning at the beginning. In here, we are able to see how many assets from different formats we have got within a pathway. For example, Fundamentals of Speech Therapy includes 4 articles and 20 posts. That all depends on the audience that you are working with, and potentially this is a perfect combination for them, but there might be a case where you would like to include more videos or courses. We can also look at the usage separately in a tab. This is all included in the first tab that I showed you, but if only engagement is in your interest, we can easily do that in here and filter by which ones were the most viewed ones, or potentially which ones are the ones that are least liked and unfollowed by the end users.